I'm still wrapping my head around that you're a nurse and you're closing deals in the bathroom. That's my thumb line. Closing deals.
So I went into the bathroom, answered the phone call, and I told him, okay, cool. I can go take a look at it when I'm off. We agreed on $22,000. All these contractors was telling me, no, sorry, man. I don't got time for this. I got too much stuff on my plate. This guy named Tony told me that, we can go see what we can do.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Investor Deli Podcast, where we make the information the star. Make sure you like, share, and care about this episode. If you like it, it talks to you, resonates, please share it along. Today, I got a great guest, my boy from Owners Club, Jose Reyes out of South Georgia. Let them know who you are, brother.
Yeah, so my name's Jose, right? For the ones that don't know me, I'm from South Georgia, and I do mostly fix and flips. I've done a little bit of double closings and a little bit of, I'm actually working on my rental, right? I'm 24 years old, and I just right now I'm just focusing on trying to find deals in my area. There's not enough wholesalers over here. So that's what I'm doing right now. I got 3 projects at the same time. I'm currently working on a house that I bought. I'm currently working on it, trying to get it fixed up so that way I can finally move out of my parents' house. But yeah, that's where things are at right now.
I love the action. I love the spirit that you go out there and chasing it down. A lot of young people relate to that, trying to create an avenue of their own where they can start creating a life of their own. And obviously finances come into play, and you're leveraging the real estate game to kind of be able to get you there. So I love that. Can you tell us, how do you get in the real estate game? Right? How do you figure out these steps and went from an idea to, hey, let's implement, let's go?
Yeah, so I used to be a nurse, if you didn't know, Mando. I used to work as a registered nurse over there in a hospital it wasn't even that long. It was only like 4 to 5 months until I ended up getting my first deal while working as a nurse full time. Then I ended up quitting. But before then, real estate I knew I wanted to do real estate during nursing school. I ended up getting my real estate license on my last semester of nursing school. So I had the thought that someday I was going to leave nursing. And at the same time, when I got into the nursing field through school, I already treated nursing or viewed nursing as my backup, right? So it wasn't like I was going to be committed full time in nursing. So it eventually did play out. So I'll go into how I found my first deal, right? So I watched a lot of wholesaling videos, right? That's usually the main thing people want to learn about whenever it comes to, from a beginner's. And so I ended up watching YouTube videos and all, and ended up, I don't know if you're familiar with Wholesaling for Real from Zach Ginn and Rick Ginn, Mando?
No, I'm not. I'm familiar with Astro Flipping, Jamil Damji.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, so I ended up watching their content, right? And, they told me, go to your code enforcement office and try to ask for a free list of properties that aren't following the code violations. So that's what I did. I ended up going there, and I eventually talked to them, and a couple weeks later, they ended up calling me while I was working at the hospital and they told me that there was this person that was having trouble trying to find a buyer for their property. Their property wasn't meeting the code violations, right? And it wasn't a house. It was a duplex that was a tear down, and it had to be demolished in order to be up to code. But the lady didn't have the funds to do that. So when I answered the phone call from the city, I went into the bathroom. I was taking care of 2 patients, right? Which they were pretty stable. So I knew that nothing bad was going to happen. So I went into the bathroom, answered the phone call, and I told them, okay, cool. I can go take a look at it when I'm off. And so me and the seller ended up meeting at the property. We agreed on $22,000, right? And got it under contract, right? I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even know where I was going to get the money. But I did know that for 4 acres and a cement pad, I knew $22,000 was a pretty good price. I didn't even need to comp it because I just knew it was a good deal, if that makes sense, right? And I'm not saying that you're going to get that confidence on every deal, right? I just knew my area, and I knew that it was pretty good, that I could easily find a buyer. All right. So, because I was going to wholesale it, right?
Yeah.
Now, at that time, I didn't have the $22,000 in my pocket. So they say this now as using other people's money. But what I did is I went to my mom. Hey, Mom, I need $22,000 to buy this. Because I know I'll say it's wholesaling, but we ended up actually buying it and then ended up turning it around and selling it as is, right? Because again, I didn't know much about the risks of wholesaling, which I know more about it now. I should have just wholesaled it, but just to be safe, we ended up buying it just so we can maintain a good relationship with the seller, right? So my mom trusted me, and so she ended up giving me the money, and we ended up buying the property, right? Now, in order to find the buyer, like before I ended up buying it, I already knew that this buyer or that this future buyer or this person had a business right beside a cargo trailer business right nearby, and I knew that maybe this property, this 4 acres, could benefit her as like a place for her trailers, you know. And so I ended up showing it to her. We agreed on $55,000, and so in less than 30 days, you know, after buying it, finding the buyer, and closing it, I made a spread of $31,000 of having us. I guess it's not an assignment fee, but like a profit margin, right? And obviously, I gave the money back to my mom plus interest. Told her thank you for believing me. But yeah, that's how I got my first deal.
Yo, that's so dope. First of all, I'm still wrapping my head around that you're a nurse and you're closing deals in the bathroom. That's my thumb line. Closing deals. That's so incredible that you barely, I'm sure you went more to school to become a nurse than you were a nurse.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
insane. That's insane. Like, and you struck gold like from the beginning, literally. You know that you found a success because that was what I was leading up to. I was gonna ask you some of your wins, but dude, you came out guns blazing, right? And what I like about it, what you said was the even though you weren't proficient maybe in understanding the numbers or you didn't underwrite it, but you knew your area so well that instinctually you know that was
yeah,
this was a good deal regardless,
yeah.
right?
And I want to say, you know, it's not. I don't want the beginners to not to think that that's every time, right? You will comp more than not comping on deals.
All the time.
Yeah,
For sure. No, you again that was ordained. That was meant for you, right? For you to touch. So that was amazing, and to take that journey, and now you're journeying. And what's more stuff that you're doing active? You still wholesaling or what's going on? I know you mentioned you're doing flips as well.
yeah. I do more flips, and well, I'm trying to focus more on flips than anything else. Just because you know, learn once you learn how to raise capital, then you know you like the deals you try to keep to yourself. And honestly, you know, here we don't have a lot of wholesalers, so like I just don't have, I guess, a lot of deals coming to me. So I'm usually the one trying to find them, right, in my area. And Tyler can say the same thing too. There's just not a lot of compared to Atlanta. There's not a lot of like um, people that are interested in trying to get their first deal, whether that's bird dogging or wholesaling, right? But yeah, I'm doing flips. I know we're on our third one, but I've done a lot of a couple of like buying them and then selling them, just like that first deal, getting under my name and then just selling them. And I just and like in doing that, I've done that over like 3 to 4 times. And I just for me, I would rather do that than wholesaling because these people that I'm selling to, I would not want them to see my my assignment fee, you know. And I just think double closing, you know, is a pretty good private way of trying to wholesale, but without disclosing your price, your assignment fee, which I think that's a pretty good. I view that as beneficial for me because I like, you know, I'll say this. I'll talk to this buyer. Hey, I'll say it to you at that price. Okay. There's never a point in the conversation where we're going to talk about my assignment fee. There's no awkward moments, and they're more confident in trying to buy from me because eventually, you know, essentially I am the owner, right? So there's like no middleman and no mistakes or whatever, right? And there's
And you're selling them to a end buyer or a flipper. I'm assuming a flipper, right?
so most of them are flippers or yeah, flippers, or they just buy and hold other investors as well, you know.
And kind of what you said, since opportunities so far, a few in between, maybe that they may cons- uh reconsider a deal that they may not get into just to get into it, you know, just to stay busy, whatever it is, you know, you don't know who it, they don't even care what you're making. They just want to get to it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like a transaction goes really smooth when you know there's no mention of the assignment fee or a middleman.
Yeah, there's no bump in the road. There's
There you
nothing.
go.
There's nothing there. So so now that you're in the space, you're flipping houses. You're in that space. I'm sure everything hasn't been peaches and cream, all hunky dory. Can you share some of those journeys that you've experienced that kept you up at night, or you couldn't figure stuff out, and how do you get it over this hump, right? This little
Yeah.
molehill that you turn into a mountain sometimes, and
Yeah.
tell us about some of those things that happened to you.
Yeah, that's a good question for this time, because like if you would have asked me that last month or 2 months ago, I would have been freaking out, because as we were fixing up one of the first rentals I was gonna have, these, back then, back then you did not have to put any permits, right? Anyone could go fix up a house, and however they want it. You didn't need no permit or a licensed contractor. But then out of nowhere, like, I called the inspector that we usually had, but turns out he retired. We ended up getting a new inspector in town, and he tells me, he goes to the back of the house and he sees all my workers there,
Yeah,
and asks me, "Hey, did you get a permit on this?" And I'm like, "No, but I can do it. I can pull it." "Oh, do you have a license?" And again, I'm not a licensed contractor, right? So I was like, "No." And he was like, "Well, you can't do it. A licensed contractor has to pull the permit." So, and like, I'm like, that right there was like, oh no. My first thought was that, well, I can't be a flipper anymore. Like, how, I'm gonna have to pay premium prices just to fix a house. And I mean, if I can get the margins pretty spread, if I don't get the margins like that, then just the numbers won't make sense anymore,
yeah,
right? And so it took me enough time to like try to figure out a way. Okay, my option one is to try to get my contractor license, but then Pace went to go get his contractor license, and he's not a contractor anymore. And so I actually texted him and I asked him, "Hey man, what do I do in this situation?" So he told me that, what he did was he paid someone to actually, I guess, overview the work, and like each time that he visited, he would pay him some money in order to like make sure that the job is going great and all that stuff, right? And I'm sure they're called like qual. Well, let me say this first, so, but yeah, so that gave me an idea, right? So I ended up trying to find me a contractor that'd be able to, I guess, borrow their license to pull the permit. Again, didn't know what I was gonna expect, so eventually I got a list of contractors in my city and I started dialing, right? And it wasn't until the eighth person that I connected with Tony. Tony, like all these other contractors, I asked, hey, is there any way that you can act as a qualifying agent? Because that's what it is. When a contractor lets you borrow their license for your own project, that position is usually called a qualifying agent, right? And so all these contractors was telling me, no, sorry, man, I don't got time for this. I got too much stuff on my plate. A bunch of no's, right? But like I said, on the eighth person, this guy named Tony told me that, yeah, we can go see what we can do. And so we met at the property, and eventually I'm making sense so far, right?
sure.
Yeah,
I'm with you. I'm get you that you had to leverage somebody else's skills, that license, right, to be able to get through the process of finishing this project, right? Literally, again, this permits pull.
yeah,
It's,
but yeah. So we ended up getting that. We ended up forming a relationship, and he's my guy when it comes to like getting permits, because now I just pay him a fee to pull the permits for us, and we can just get back to work. Obviously, he supervises my workers, which at the same time is really beneficial, because now my guys are learning what up to code is. There are some things that it wasn't right back then, and it's just, I think it was great. But like I said, I know we were talking about like this, the fearful things, and yeah, that was my fear. Like for 2 weeks, like trying to find a solution to this problem here. Which again, I know like this solution over there in other states and bigger cities, But again, I lived in the town where permits weren't needed, and now I'm actually facing that. And
yeah,
I know I know it's a normal thing over there in where y'all at, where you need permits. So
no, but again, it was a transition within the department. A new person came with a new skill set. This other person was, again, the size of the town matters. This guy's probably been there forever, and he was just like mom and pop in it. Everything's cool, right?
yeah,
Status quo. And now, right? So now some dose of realities kind of hit, and you were put in position. Hey, this is how you figure it out. You know,
yeah,
and God put something in your space to say, "Hey, meet Tony," right?
Yep.
and you just had to go through this little friction, right? This little that little status between stations, I call sometimes on the radio, whoever still listens to radio. But
Yeah.
right, remember that. So yeah, that's an awesome story. That's an awesome stick to itiveness, right? How you stick to something, get on the phone, who can help with the situation, leveraging pace and fostering an idea. Hey, maybe this will work for you, right? That set you on a direction as well. So all that stuff just compounds, like how being in a room with people that may have a solution like pace, right? Just reaching out to someone in our community, and
Yeah.
that's an awesome place to be, right? That you don't feel completely lost, where you be like, man, what do I do, right? That's when you really get discouraged, I believe, right?
Yeah.
But talk us about some of that community. What does that mean, and being able to belong to such a great community?
What community means to me is, being able to support others, following the same vision. Like each one of us are trying to get better, are trying to do 1% better on ourselves each day. And like, doing this podcast, we met through a community, and like doing this podcast is gonna support each of us, right, in our own visions and goals. And I just feel like, so it's up to community for sure. We're in that community, and there's just so much value. And I feel like, that community is gonna go somewhere in the future. We're like accomplishing really, really great. I don't want to say world records, but like really great records that other communities is gonna have to take a lot of time to achieve. If that makes sense.
Yeah, again, it all starts with the leader up top, the tip of the spear. Pace is the best guy in the world. So shout out to always to Pace, and salute to you, and carry on, soldier. But yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. So the audience will appreciate learning those journeys that people go through. Now let's talk about something that's probably more near and dear to your heart. Maybe it's your vision, where you're trying to do, where you're trying to accomplish in the space. Since you're a newer investor, I call it this part, the makings of a hero, right? So
Yeah.
share some of those ideas, those visions, that Mount Everest, that
Yeah.
climb that you envision seeing yourself, and how hard it's going to be to get there, but I'm going for it.
Yeah. It's funny because I know whenever we were working on our Mount Everest like last year, my Mount Everest ended up being trying to buy at least one or two businesses every year, right? Not real estate, but businesses. And which I still want to do that, but right now where I'm at and what I'm surrounded with, I feel like, from what I know, I think I have to focus a little bit more on the real estate side of things, master it, and then transition into businesses. Because obviously I feel like I'm hoping for that time or that moment where, while I'm focusing on real estate, a business comes up on my deal plate, then little bit, then I'll transition it to slowly, right? But right now, or when it comes to real estate, I'm trying to develop the system where, I'm not the guy picking up the materials. I'm not the guy um, helping out with the guys, right? I want to, I guess, on your level, how many flips have you done, by the way?
I've done just a couple of flips. I've come in on the money side, but hands on, not too many. It's kind of something that I'm now encountering now. You know,
Okay.
again, it's not, and then it's again, I'm in a long distance market, right? So for me, is really fostering relationships that situations can go right, right? So that's kind of the strategy I take, in kind of sort of opposite where you're at. You're literally hands on, right? You're all in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
On the first flip, yes, I was like 80% hands on, but on the second and third, like, I would say possibly like 20%. Where it's getting better now, where I'm trying to make it hands off. And I feel like on the next flip that we get, I feel like, I don't know if you know Edgar Vargas, right? Right, the private money lender from Atlanta. He's an owners as well.
yes, I do know.
Yeah, he's telling me about this loan from that they offer, where they finance 90% of the purchase price and 100% of the renovations. Like, if I remember to get that, and I guess find me another crew, then that could be its own system right there. I just have to find the deal and let them fix the house, and the money's already taken care of for the most part, right? But But yeah, that's where I'm thinking we're gonna be heading. Because in doing that, I just won't have to be on there on site most of the time, like I am now. And I feel once we have that system, then I'll be able to do 2 to 3. My goal is to try to get to a level where I do at least 2 to 3, buy 2 to 3 flips a month, right? When it comes to real estate. And again, I'm doing also focusing on pre-foreclosures as one of the ways to find deals, right? We just bought a house last month from a pre-foreclosure. Instead of it going to auction, we tried to the subject to didn't work out as an option, so we ended up doing cash, and we ended up buying the house before the auction. So we helped her. We put some funds in her pocket. But yeah, that's the latest flip that we've gotten.
And how long are your flips staying on market? Can you tell us some about that? How's that going?
Yeah, yeah. So we've gotten like surprisingly, I know it takes longer for others, but we've gotten like the margins that we have, we're able to lower it down. So like on average, it's like a month until we get it under contract, right? I know it took a month for my first flip, and then for the second one, which is that I don't know if you've seen the double wide that we made over 100K in profit. That one took a month for it to get under contract. But even though we did it, it took a month for it to get under contract. I felt like it took 2 months for it to close. So, the buyer had to go through the bank financing, which you know how that goes.
That's all now contingent on them and how far they expedite, all the paperwork and all that stuff, that a buyer has to do traditionally.
Yeah.
But all right, so you sounds like you're positioning these property maybe at a lower price point because you can.
Yeah, because I can. Yeah, I mean, because the margins are there, right? Since I don't have to, I find my own deals. I don't pay a wholesaler, right? And I'm also a licensed agent in Georgia, right? So I don't have to pay my commission to another agent to list my properties, right? So there's some expenses that I don't have to worry about.
That's awesome. Like the way you conducting your little business there is going to be a big business soon, brother. That's the way it sounded.
That's what I'm hoping for, man. I know you gotta start somewhere, but yeah, it's little by little.
Yeah, for sure. Why you look? So definitely excited to build that out with some systems actually. So that's super important that you keep on mentioning that, because that's I think where all the work really happens, right? In those systems and processes that you can rinse and repeat or copy and paste them, right? And take you to the next site. But yeah, that was super dope. Where can people reach you? They want to contact you, work with you, get to know you.
Yeah, they can reach me out at wholesaling.invest. I post I'm serious about this Instagram thing. I'm trying to post at least every day for a year. Like, doesn't even matter if it's perfect, right? Just post whatever, right? Just to develop that discipline, and then over time, eventually, try to post twice a day. I don't know. I'm trying to get to that pace more, being at Alex Hormozy level, right? And like you've mentioned, got to implement the ebooks and all these lead magnets, right? But yeah, josereyes.invest on Instagram, and josereyes.invest with an S on YouTube. But yeah, that's where they can reach me at.
Thank you for showing up. Appreciate you for showing up and showing out. Again, everyone, welcome to another episode of Investor Deli Podcast. I hope you guys enjoying, and watch out for the next one. Thank you, Jose.
You're welcome, and I'll see you soon.